Dr. Felix Ramsey was a man driven by curiosity and a deep-rooted desire to heal. An experienced medic from Earth, Felix had chosen to leave the bustling cities and technology-laden hospitals behind for a life of exploration among the stars. His current mission brought him to Vinia, a planet as barren as it was beautiful, cloaked in endless dunes and towering rock formations that pierced the sky. Vinia was known among the Galactic community for its unique flora, plants that thrived in harsh conditions and possessed potent medicinal properties. Felix, ever the scientist, was here to study these plants, hoping to unlock new treatments for diseases plaguing human colonies. His days were filled with rigorous sampling and testing, but the solitude never bothered him. If anything, it was a companion he had grown comfortable with. One crisp morning, as the twin suns of Vinia rose, casting a golden hue over the silver sands, Felix set out with his equipment slung over his shoulder. His destination was a valley rumored to contain the rarest of the planet's flora. The journey was long and arduous, the terrain unforgiving, but Felix pressed on with the determination of a man on the brink of a breakthrough. It was during this trek, deep in the heart of a rocky gorge, that Felix's life took an unexpected turn. There, against a backdrop of towering stone, he spotted a figure. As he drew closer, his initial curiosity morphed into concern. The figure was a person, or more precisely, an alien woman, slumped against a boulder, her features marked by the unmistakable pallor of distress. Approaching cautiously, Felix quickly realized the gravity of the situation. The woman was alone, far from any civilization, her body equipped with a rudimentary exoskeleton that seemed to have malfunctioned, leaving her lower limbs immobile. Her breathing was shallow, and she appeared to be semi-conscious, barely aware of her surroundings. Without hesitation, Felix dropped his pack and rushed to her side, his medic instincts kicking into high gear. He gently assessed her condition, careful not to startle her. She had severe dehydration and multiple abrasions, likely from days of exposure to the harsh elements of Vinia without proper shelter or sustenance. "Hey, it's okay. I'm here to help," Felix spoke softly, offering a comforting smile as her eyes fluttered open. They were a striking shade of violet, filled with confusion and a hint of fear. "I'm Felix, a medic," he continued, keeping his voice calm as he prepared a saline drip from his field kit to address her dehydration. "You're safe now." The alien woman tried to speak, her voice a hoarse whisper. "Water, please?" Felix quickly provided her with water from his supplies, supporting her head as she drank slowly, her throat working painfully with each swallow. As she regained a bit of strength, she looked at him with a mix of gratitude and wariness. "My name is Mira," she managed to say, her voice gaining a little strength. "I thought I was going to die here." "Not on my watch," Felix replied, a reassuring grin on his face despite the seriousness of the situation. He continued to treat her injuries, cleaning the abrasions and applying antibiotic ointment to prevent infection. As the immediate medical needs were addressed, Felix helped Mira into a more comfortable position against the rock, using his jacket to keep her warm as the temperature began to drop with the approaching evening. "Can you tell me what happened?" Felix asked, his tone gentle but curious, aware that understanding her situation was key to further helping her. Mira sighed, a look of sadness crossing her features. "I was abandoned here. Left to die because I'm considered a burden to my people due to my disability." Felix's brow furrowed at her words, anger and sympathy mingling in his heart. He knew the galaxy could be cruel, but abandoning someone to die was a brutality he could not comprehend. "Well, you're not alone anymore," Felix assured her, his voice firm with conviction. "We'll figure this out together." As the sun set on Vinia, casting long shadows over the desert, Felix sat beside Mira, determined to protect her. In the silence that followed, a bond began to form, one forged in the desolate expanses of a lonely planet, between a human medic and an alien with nowhere else to turn. Over the next several days, Dr. Felix Ramsey dedicated himself to Mira's recovery, their temporary camp becoming a makeshift clinic. The harsh environment of Vinia, with its relentless winds and abrasive sands, made the healing process challenging, but Felix's expertise and determination prevailed. Each morning began with Felix checking Mira's vital signs, administering medication, and adjusting her exoskeleton, which he had managed to repair to some degree. Mira, for her part, was an eager if somewhat stubborn patient, insistent on participating in her recovery. Together, they began a regimen of physical therapy designed to strengthen her upper body, helping compensate for her paraplegia. "Tell me about your world, Felix," Mira asked during one of their sessions, her interest in her rescuer growing as her physical strength returned. Felix, wiping sweat from his brow under the glaring suns, smiled. "It's a lot different from here," he began, settling next to her on a smooth rock. "Earth is vibrant, filled with colors and life, vast oceans and sprawling cities. I was a city boy before I became, well, an interstellar vagabond." Mira laughed softly, the sound blending with the whispering winds. "And what brought you to the stars?" Felix's expression turned thoughtful. "A need to make a difference, I suppose. Back home, I felt constrained by routines, by the enormity of human suffering. Out here, I thought I could find new ways to help, discover treatments from unique planets like Vinia." Their conversations became a bridge, connecting their vastly different lives. Mira shared tales of her people, the Rhinari, a race of highly skilled engineers and warriors. She spoke of the stigma attached to disability among her kind, her voice tinged with sadness. "My mother was different, though," Mira revealed one evening as they watched the sunset. "She believed in compassion, in the potential within all beings, regardless of physical ability. But after she disappeared, things changed." Felix listened intently, his respect for Mira deepening with each shared secret. "She sounds like a remarkable woman," he replied, placing a gentle hand on Mira's shoulder. As Mira grew stronger, she expressed a desire to help Felix with his research. Intrigued by the healing properties of the local flora, Mira proved to be a quick study, her keen mind grasping the botanical science that Felix taught her. Together, they catalogued numerous plants, their properties potentially groundbreaking in the field of medicine. One day, while analyzing a particularly resilient plant, Felix noticed its cells responded uniquely to Mira's touch. "It seems to activate more aggressively," Felix mused, peering into his portable microscope. "Your physiology might be interacting with it." Mira, peering over his shoulder, nodded. "Many Rhinari plants respond to our specific biosignals. Maybe it's similar here." Their discovery hinted at groundbreaking applications in biotechnology and medicine, promising not only to help Mira but countless others across the galaxy. However, their breakthrough did not go unnoticed. Late one night, as Felix reviewed data, a warning alarm from his pod's perimeter system blared. Grabbing a flashlight, he rushed outside, only to see figures skulking near their camp. "Mira, stay inside," he called over his shoulder as he approached the intruders. The figures halted, and one stepped forward. "We mean no harm," the leader said, his voice echoing strangely in the night air. "We've been monitoring unusual energy signatures from this location." Felix, cautious but curious, replied, "We are conducting medicinal research." "Who are you?" "We are scouts from the Galactic Council, investigating unregistered activities on frontier planets," the figure explained. "Your work could have wider implications. We need to ensure it's conducted within Council regulations." Realizing the potential for his and Mira's research to be shut down, or worse, co-opted, Felix felt a protective surge. "Our findings are meant to help people, not entangle us in bureaucracy." The leader nodded slowly. "Perhaps an agreement can be reached. We'll report your cooperation and the humanitarian nature of your project, but will require regular updates." Relieved yet wary, Felix agreed, understanding the necessity of compliance. As the scouts departed, Felix turned back to the pod, finding Mira watching from the doorway. "It seems we're part of something much bigger now," he said, half smiling. "Yes," Mira agreed, rolling out to join him under the stars. "And together, we'll navigate it." Their partnership, forged in the solitude of a desolate planet and strengthened by shared purpose, was about to face the vast complexities of galactic diplomacy. But Felix and Mira, united in their mission, were ready to meet the challenge head-on, protecting their work and each other. With the arrival of the Galactic Council's scouts, Felix and Mira realized the scale of their discovery and its potential impact. Encouraged by their interaction, they decided to formalize their research efforts. Together, they expanded their makeshift lab, using advanced equipment Felix requisitioned from Earth and innovative techniques Mira knew from her heritage. Their days were filled with a new kind of energy, as both the human and alien aspects of their work harmonized to create something neither could have achieved alone. Felix documented their findings meticulously, preparing reports for the Galactic Council, ensuring transparency and hoping to foster goodwill. Mira, growing in confidence daily, proposed a new project. Felix, our work could benefit more than just those who are sick. What if we could enhance these plants' properties to create sustainable living environments here on Vinia? Biodomes that could support life, make this desolate place a refuge for those in need. Intrigued by the idea, Felix helped draft a proposal, combining their medical research with ecological engineering. Together, they outlined a vision for a series of biodomes that would use the unique flora of Vinia to create self-sustaining ecosystems. The proposal caught the attention of the Galactic Council. Impressed by their initiative and the potential benefits of such a project, the Council sent a team of experts in planetary development and sustainability to Vinia. The experts from various corners of the galaxy brought with them a wealth of knowledge and resources. Under the guidance of Felix and Mira, and with the backing of the Galactic Council, they began the construction of the first biodome. The project was ambitious, involving advanced technology to integrate the planet's native flora into a controlled environment that could support both human and alien life. Felix took the lead on the medical and botanical aspects, ensuring that the plants used were both safe and beneficial. Mira worked alongside engineers, applying her understanding of alien technology to create a synergy between the dome's life support systems and the natural environment of Vinia. Her unique perspective was invaluable, solving problems that had stumped traditional engineers. As the dome took shape, Felix and Mira watched their dream become a reality. The structure was designed to be both functional and beautiful, with transparent walls that allowed light to flood in and large open spaces filled with greenery. The community response was overwhelming. Many who had heard of their work traveled to Vinia, drawn by the promise of a new beginning. Among them were scientists, doctors, artists, and families, all eager to contribute to the burgeoning community. Felix found himself at the heart of this new society, not only as a medic, but as a leader. His days were filled with both challenges and rewards as he navigated his responsibilities. Mira, too, found a new role, overseeing the integration of more biodomes across the planet, each adapted to different environmental needs and species. But it wasn't just their professional lives that flourished. As they worked together, their bond deepened, grounded in mutual respect and a shared vision. They found comfort and strength in each other, their partnership proving to be the foundation upon which the new haven on Vinia was built. One evening, as they stood watching the sunset from the top of the first completed biodome, Mira turned to Felix. "Look at what we've started," she said, her voice filled with wonder. Felix smiled, squeezing her hand. "It's more than I ever imagined," he replied, "and it's just the beginning." Together, they looked out over the biodome, the vibrant life within stark, against the barren landscape outside. It was a symbol of their success, a beacon of hope on Vinia, and a testament to what could be achieved when two disparate souls united for a common cause. Months passed, and what had started as a desperate act of survival had transformed into something extraordinary. The Vinia Sanctuary, as it had come to be called, was no longer just a research station, but a beacon for refugees, travelers, and exiles. With its advanced biodomes sustaining life on the harsh planet, the settlement had drawn the attention of both allies and adversaries across the galaxy. Felix had never intended to become a leader, yet here he was, overseeing medical operations, training new staff, and making diplomatic decisions that could shape the sanctuary's future. Mira, once cast aside by her own people, had found a purpose. Her unique hybrid knowledge of Renari and human technology crucial in adapting the biodomes to new inhabitants. One evening, as Felix reviewed medical reports in his personal quarters, Mira barged in, her expression tense. "We have a problem," she said, handing him a data tablet. Felix skimmed the reports, his heart sinking. "This can't be right," he muttered. "It's confirmed," Mira replied, crossing her arms. "Several supply shipments from our Galactic Council allies have disappeared in transit. Worse, long-range scanners picked up unusual energy signatures near Virenia's orbit, cloaked ships, likely hostile." Felix ran a hand through his hair, frustration mounting. They had worked tirelessly to build this place, to create something that mattered, and now it was being threatened. "Who do we suspect?" he asked, already bracing himself for bad news. Mira's expression darkened. "The Order of Purity." Felix exhaled sharply. He had heard of them before, a radical faction that believed in genetic superiority, despising hybrids and those they saw as tainted bloodlines. Mira, being half human and half Renari, was exactly the kind of person they sought to eliminate. "They've found me," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Felix clenched his fists. "Then they found all of us." The following days were a whirlwind of preparations. Knowing an attack was imminent, Felix and Mira worked with the sanctuary's engineers and defense coordinators to fortify the settlement. The biodomes, originally designed as peaceful refuges, were reinforced with energy shields, and makeshift turrets were installed at key entry points. Felix focused on medical preparations, stockpiling supplies, training emergency response teams, and preparing for mass casualties. He knew that if it came to an all-out battle, many would be wounded, and some might not make it. The attack came at dawn. A sudden tremor shook the ground, followed by the wail of security alarms. Felix rushed outside just in time to see ships descending from the crimson sky, their sleek black hulls marked with the insignia of the Order of Purity. Then the bombardment began. Explosions ripped through the outskirts of the settlement as the enemy's plasma cannons fired relentlessly. The shields held, but Felix knew they wouldn't last forever. "Everyone, to your stations." Mira's voice echoed through the comms. She had taken command of the sanctuary's defense forces, leading the charge with the same strategic brilliance that had been ingrained in her as a child of royalty. Felix hurried to the medical bay, where wounded civilians and soldiers alike were already being carried in. He moved with precision, patching up burns, sealing wounds, stabilizing patients while the battle raged on outside. "Doctor, we need you at the North Dome," one of his assistants called. Felix grabbed his gear and rushed out, weaving through the chaos of gunfire and falling debris. He arrived just in time to see Mira engaging in direct combat. Her exoskeleton, now fully upgraded with Renari battle enhancements, allowed her to move like a force of nature, her energy blades slicing through the enemy with deadly efficiency. Despite her paraplegia, she fought without hesitation, her willpower turning her into a warrior unlike any he had ever seen. Felix barely had time to marvel at her before a group of Purity soldiers breached the medical bay. No, you're not touching my people," Felix roared, grabbing a pulse rifle from a fallen defender. Despite not being a soldier, Felix was a damn good shot. Years of medical training had given him steady hands, and now they served a new purpose as he fired, hitting 2 enemy soldiers square in the chest. Another lunged at him, but before the soldier could strike, Mira was there. She took the attacker down in one swift movement, breathing hard. "You're insane for staying out here," she panted. Felix smirked, wiping sweat from his brow. "I could say the same about you." Their moment of relief was short-lived. A deafening blast erupted behind them, knocking both to the ground. Dazed, Felix looked up to see a massive enemy dropship hovering above the sanctuary, weapons primed. The Purity forces weren't just attacking, they were here to finish the job. Mira coughed, forcing herself upright, her golden eyes blazing with fury. "We end this, now." And with that, they prepared for the final stand of Vinia. The enemy dropship hovered like a predator over the Vinia sanctuary, its massive cannons glowing with the charge of an impending plasma blast. Felix could already hear the warning screams from civilians and medics inside the biodomes. If that ship fired, the entire settlement would be obliterated in a single strike. "We built this place with our own hands," Felix thought grimly. "I won't let them take it from us." Mira, standing beside him, was already moving, her upgraded exoskeleton humming with power as she accessed her tactical comms. "Felix, we need to take out that ship before it fires." Felix wiped blood from his brow, his pulse pounding. "How the hell do we do that?" Mira's golden eyes flickered. "There's a weakness in their ship design. The underside of the hull, where their stabilizers meet the main reactor, is vulnerable to an EMP strike." Felix quickly scanned the battlefield. The Purity troops were advancing, their black armored forms pushing against the sanctuary's remaining defenses. The shield generator was failing, flickering with bursts of static. If the shield collapsed completely, they'd be overrun. Felix turned to Mira, gripping her shoulder. "Then let's take that ship down," she smirked. "That's the plan." Mira and Felix sprinted across the battlefield, dodging debris and enemy fire. Every step felt heavier as exhaustion clawed at Felix's limbs, but he pushed forward. They reached the outer storage bay, where a handful of the sanctuary's engineers had been gathering supplies for evacuees. One of them, a broad-shouldered Rhinari named Kor, looked up in shock as Felix and Mira skidded to a stop. "We need the EMP cannon," Mira ordered, her voice sharp. Kor's face darkened. "We only have one, and it's not designed for airborne targets." "We'll make it work," Felix interrupted. With no time for argument, Kor and his crew rushed to activate the EMP device, mounting it onto a modified plasma turret. The cannon was bulky, jury-rigged together with components from half a dozen different worlds. "We need to get underneath that ship," Mira said. Felix glanced at the open terrain between them and their target. It was suicide. "We'll cover you," Kor said, raising his rifle. The engineers with him did the same. Felix swallowed down his fear. This was it. The final sprint was chaos. Felix and Mira ran toward the enemy dropship, ducking behind ruined buildings as plasma fire rained down. Explosions lit up the sky. The biodome shields collapsed entirely and Purity soldiers poured in. The sanctuary was one breath away from annihilation. Mira leapt over a barricade, Felix right behind her, both skidding into place as Kor's team powered up the EMP cannon. Targeting the stabilizers, Kor yelled over the comms. "Give me 10 seconds." They didn't have 10 seconds. The dropship's cannon charged to full power, the deadly glow illuminating the battlefield. Felix turned to Mira. "We need to buy time." Without hesitation, she activated her energy blades and sprinted into the fray. The Purity troops closest to the cannon saw her and turned, but they were too slow. Mira cut through them like a storm, her exoskeleton making her movement fluid and lethal. Felix wasn't a warrior, but he was a damn good shot. He grabbed a fallen soldier's rifle and opened fire, providing cover as Mira carved a path toward the advancing enemy forces. Kor's voice crackled in their earpieces. "EMP locked. Firing now." A pulse of electric blue energy erupted from the cannon. The air rippled as the blast struck the underside of the dropship. Sparks exploded across the hull, and for a second, nothing happened. Then, the reactor ruptured. The massive warship shuddered as power failed, the engines flickering and dying. The glow in its cannons dimmed as gravity reclaimed its hold. The ship was falling. Mira turned, sprinting back toward Felix, just as the dropship collided with the desert floor in a deafening explosion. A shockwave of heat and debris blasted outward, sending both of them tumbling backward. For several moments, everything was silent. Then, a roar of victory erupted from the sanctuary's survivors. The Purity forces, seeing their flagship destroyed, began a panicked retreat. The battle was over. Felix pulled himself to his feet, his ears ringing. Mira stumbled next to him, bruised and breathing hard. Their eyes met, and they both started laughing. They had won. The battle was over, but the aftermath was overwhelming. The sanctuary had survived, but it was in ruins. Fires burned in the wreckage, wounded lay scattered among the debris, and the remaining Purity soldiers were being rounded up. Felix worked tirelessly in the makeshift medical bay, treating burns, stabilizing internal injuries, saving as many lives as he could. His hands were slick with blood, but he refused to stop until everyone who could be saved had a fighting chance. Mira was by his side, despite her own injuries, helping coordinate the survivors. She was exhausted, but there was fire in her veins, a light in her eyes that had not been there before. Then the sky split open again. Not with warships, but with something entirely different. A royal fleet. The vessels bore the emblem of the Rhinari Empire. One ship, larger than the rest, descended into the valley. Mira froze, her breath catching in her throat. Then, as the ship's ramp extended, a figure stepped out. A woman, her robes flowing like liquid gold, her presence commanding yet warm. Mira's mother. The lost queen of the Rhinari. Gasps spread through the gathered survivors as the queen strode forward, her piercing gaze locked on Mira. Mira stood, motionless, her body tense. Then, her mother embraced her. Tears glistened in Mira's eyes as she whispered, "I thought you were dead." The queen pulled back, cradling Mira's face. "And I thought I had lost you forever." The moment was both raw and profound, witnessed by all but meant only for them. Finally, the Queen turned to Felix. "Dr. Ramsey," she said, her voice rich with gratitude. "You saved my daughter when the galaxy abandoned her. You gave her a home, a purpose. I owe you a debt I can never repay." Felix, weary and still covered in medical scrubs, shrugged with a tired grin. "She saved me too." The Queen's lips curved slightly. "Then I will make you an offer. Come to the Renari Empire. Serve as my personal chief medical officer. Our people would benefit from your skills." Felix blinked, stunned. Mira smirked at him. "Careful, Doc. You might just become part of something bigger than yourself." Felix exhaled, looking around at what they had built, what they had fought for. Then he turned back to Mira, his decision already made. "I think I already have." And with that, Felix Ramsey, once a simple field medic, stepped into a future beyond the stars, forever tied to the woman he had saved, and the new world they would build together.